in my opinion, the CAT exam is primarily about temperament. It's not an exam wherein you'll be tested on a whole lot of new concepts or concepts where you have to use your mind and come up with solutions to complex problems. The questions will be fairly on the easier side, of course, on a relative scale. You would know about these things. You might have already done similar questions, right? At the same time, it's not the preparation does not require you to read about thousands of things, practice like dozens of concepts and so on. Of course, there's a decent sized syllabus that you will have to follow. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not a very tough exam on the preparation side and on the learning side. What then it becomes is a temperament exam. So the best way to prepare for CAT is to make sure that you have the right temperament while you're preparing as well as while you're giving the exam, right? And of course, to make sure that you have that temperament, you need to have done work, you need to have put in the hours, you need to have given enough mock tests. And some of these are the things that I'm going to talk to you about, right? So what do I mean by it's a temperament exam? Um, think of it as as clearing CAT requires you to give your best, and if you give your best, there's a high amount of chance that you will be amongst the top scorers. So I can guarantee that for a majority of you, once you come out of the exam and you take a day or two off and then you look at it, a lot of you will feel, irrespective of how the exam went, that if I had just sort of thought about it in the right way, thought about my preparation in the right way, and done the right things while I was giving the exam in those 2 hours, I would have definitely got a great percentile, right? And great depends. Like it might be 99 percentile for you, it might be 99.5, 98, 99.9, whatever it is, right? But a majority of you, if not all of you, will think that. Now, how do we build that temperament? So, again, there's no one answer for it. But if I have to give you a generalized answer, it's you have to work on what you lack. How do you do that, right? Again, different people have different solutions for it. Some people say that you should calm yourself, you should, as a part of daily preparation time, you should meditate, you should talk to a lot of people that have given the exam, try to figure out strategies. What worked for me the best was just taking as many mocks as I could and making sure that I did my best in those. And these mocks don't always have to be complete 2 hour length mock tests. These can also be like 40-minute sectional tests. So you take the exam, you see your score, and then you analyze. Once you do these mock tests, what becomes even more important is what you do after that. Because giving mocks is just the starting point, right? Especially in the initial days, given that it's April right now, and a lot of you would be giving exams like 7, 8 months later. What becomes especially important, what you should not do in the initial phase, is look at your percentile and look at your marks after you give the mock exam. Not because they're not important, they're very important, but simply because you can't do anything about it, right? You got a great percentile in your first mock, in your second mock in April and May. So that's great, but it was just a mock exam. You got really bad percentile. That's too bad, but you can't really do anything about it. All you should do after giving your mock exam is take some time off, take a couple of hours off or take the day off, come back to it tomorrow and just look at what questions you got wrong or what questions you couldn't do. And then figure out, are these the questions that you could have done had you A, went about the question differently, B, done more of these questions in practice, or C, simply if you had a cooler mind, right? And these are the three things going about questions like differently, approaching the questions differently. A lot of times you can substitute values instead of like solving full-fledged questions. That's one example. Second thing I spoke of was preparing more on a certain topic. So a lot of times there are topics that you just don't understand. You've never understood it from class 10 or class 8, and you're not going to understand it now. And it's fine to skip 1 or 2 topics like that, because you can easily skip like 5 or 6 questions from a particular section and still end up as a 99.8, 99.9 percentile. So it's fine, right? But there are certain topics that you if you had practiced 1 hour more on that topic, maybe this question would have become difficult. Identifying that after the mock exam. And the third part is whether you were cool and composed. Are you someone that once you give one section and you think it went badly, are you someone that gets perturbed by it, and then when you go on to do the other section, that is still at the back of your mind and you mess that up as well? Are you someone like that? Analyze it and then figure out how best can I not repeat that again. So just doing these things again and again will make sure that you do your best. And as I said, if it is an exam, because of the way it's structured, that if you do your best, you will end up at the top, because a lot of people, majority of the people will not do their best.
CAT as an exam, I see CAT as three separate exams and not just one exam. So why? Because like you get equal amount of time for three areas and you cannot ignore any single area. So CAT, like, so now there are three components: VARC, DILR, and Quant. Now coming, now since there are only 4 months left, the first most important thing, according to me, is to understand where you lie right now. Like you definitely want to aim for a particular score, but now at this point in time, you want to understand where you stand. So, like what I mean to say is, आप जब prepare कर रहे हो, so like you might be, some of you might be preparing since March, some of you might have started a bit later, June, July, etc. But now coming to August, you should understand कि कितना हो गया है और कितना बाकी है. So that is where what worked for me to understand this is giving mocks and preparing trackers. So one by one, coming to mocks. So I think mock season starts somewhere in the start of June, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around May. So it's important that you guys start giving mocks, because since there's only 4 months left, you want to understand which are your weak areas and which are your strong areas. And the second thing I mentioned was create a tracker. You should always keep a track of like where are you in your preparation. So how I used to track my journey was to like basically like you have, especially if I talk about quant as a subject. So quant mein you have many topics. So just create an Excel sheet or just create a sheet where you list down all the topics and you rate yourself in those topics. Like every after every, let's say, 2 weeks, you rate yourself in those topics. So you get to know which topics are your weak areas and which are your strong areas. So now yeah, so first and most important thing for you guys is to understand where you stand. And now talking about different sections. So CAT, as I said, has there's three separate exams altogether, and all like the three sections, the like the strategy to aim these three sections is very different. So starting from VARC. Now, VARC, what I see, like VARC, according to me, I believe that VARC's preparation starts outside of VARC actually. Like how I see VARC is like you should love to read. So now some of you might be wondering like VARC, like usually it's a top a subsection where either you're very good or you're very bad, or you're transitioning in between. So I was not being from a mathematical background and being an engineer, I was not very good at naturally at English because I also did not have a habit of reading. So for VARC, my suggestion would be that just start reading. Start reading as diverse topics as you can. Start reading your articles. You have many free resources for articles. And start reading books if you can. Like for me, what worked was I started reading books. I started reading books even before I started preparing for my CAT exam. So that habit of reading actually, once you have that joy of reading, you are not just reading for answering questions, you're actually reading for understanding the topic. That becomes very important in VARC. So yeah, just try to read as many diverse topics as you can, because in VARC, like you often get a mix of topics, and uh, it can happen that there are certain topics, certain areas which you do not like reading about. So answering questions which are difficult or which might be from multiple paragraphs becomes difficult. So my suggestion to you all will be to start reading articles, start reading as much as you can, and start reading for the joy of reading and not just for answering questions. So I hope this will help you all. And if I come to DILR, now DILR as a section is really testing your core competencies. There are a set of questions which come, like there are a pattern of questions, but there is a vast variety of sets that can be made out of them. So in DILR, personally in my journey, what helped me to score well in DILR was that I started solving puzzles. Again, same thing as VARC. My preparation for CAT was also outside of CAT. So while working, I used to take out some time to solve puzzles like Sudoku. Sudoku and Kakuro are two great puzzles which can really, like, if you be good at those puzzles, you can be great at solving DILR because those are all about pattern recognition. And in my opinion, DILR is also testing the similar competencies in you. So solve as many as puzzles as you can and try to solve at least one or two DILR sets every single day. And there are many resources online which you can find. There are many free resources shared by EduShastra also. So try to just solve one or two DILR sets every day and just not solve them. When you solve them, try seeking solutions, like try understanding, even if you have solved a DILR set, try to understand how could I have done it better. Oftentimes, when you look at the solutions of any DILR set solved by any mentor, you will see that mentor is following a set approach, and that approach is getting to the answer quickly. That is what matters in CAT. Like in my opinion, in my personal opinion, like if you're given more than 1 hour to the DILR set, most of you will be able to solve like at least 4 sets comfortably, 3 to 4 sets comfortably. But so DILR, the time becomes very important, and question selection. When you solve so many sets, you get to understand which are the type of sets that you are very comfortable with. So try to aim for that low hanging fruits. You always want to maximize the output per minute in your exam, and that's very true for DILR, also for every other section. So that's my take on DILR. Now coming to Quant, one of my favorite sections. Quant is the only section where there's a defined syllabus. You know all the topics, and you can really plan your quant preparation, uh, like plan your quant preparation in a designed way, is that in a tracked way. So as I mentioned, when I mentioned tracker, I was mostly mentioning it for quant. So create a tracker for yourself. Now, you just have 4 months in your hand. So your priority should be to understand your strengths and your weaknesses in quant, because quants, like even quant syllabus is very vast, and over time, over time the CAT, like arithmetic was the primary focus, but over time they are moving towards algebra and other topics as well. So you cannot simply ignore any topic, but yeah, there are some topics which you can cover quickly and ensure that you are answering most of the questions that come in the exam, which are, of course, your algebra, your arithmetic, and your geometry. So, so now, just having just 4 months in your hand, how you can prepare for quant is, first thing, understand where you are strong and where you're weak. And 4 months is an ample amount of time to convert those weakness into your strengths. So try to go through the theory, finish the theory as soon as you can, and practice alongside. Try to increase the level of difficulty. And in quant, another thing that really helped me was to just sit down with a question. If I'm stuck at a question, I'll solve that question, and I'll also think about variations of the same question. So you don't have to wait till you find that another question with some variation. So when you find a difficult question, keep note down that question and try to think about variation. I'll give you an example. Like let's say there's a hexagon. Let's say you are given a question about hexagon and uh, you set to find the area of a shaded region. Now you can shade answer after solving that question. You can shade different region and ask yourself, what if this particular region was asked? How would I solve this? So that really helped me, and I think that will be very helpful for you guys also to like build your competencies in quant as a subject.
Coming to the interview part of the prep, again, my percentile was 99.67. I knew I had to work very hard if I want to get into IIM Ahmedabad, given I don't have any diversity points in my profile. So I don't think now is the right time to start thinking about all the things that you need to do in your interview phase, because currently all your focus should be on maximizing your CAT percentile. Because once you have a good CAT percentile, you will have enough time to work on the areas that are asked in the interview. And the interview is all about you. If you make a tree starting from where you were born, where did you study, what did you study, what are you working, and all of those branches about yourself, if you know everything very well, it is very unlikely that something from out of your tree or out of the branches in your tree will be determinant in the interview. That is to say, obviously, they can ask you who was the first RBI governor of India, but I don't think that will determine your chances of getting in the college. In interview, if you're not able to answer basic things about your academic background or about your city that you belong to, that leaves a bad impression. One or two questions from here and there, which are very random, and you're not able to answer, it is still okay. So I think at the interview stage, what matters is identifying. This is the way that I thought about interviews. Identifying what branches exist in your profile, because that is where the questions are going to come from, and then going very deep in those branches. I should not leave any untied threads in those branches.